Chapter 4, Part 2. This section is going to demonstrate the use of overloading methods. Basically, whenever you go in and reuse a method's name or a constructor's name, you are doing what's known as an overload. It is possible to reuse method names. However, if you do put yourself into an overloading situation, you must change something about those methods. For example, you could have a method that accepted no arguments, one that accepted one argument, two arguments, three arguments. You could have a method that accepts one argument that's an integer, and another method in an overloading situation that has one argument that accepts a double. So as long as there's some kind of difference between one method to the next, you can go in and do an overloading situation. Best example of this, I could go in and name all of my children John Smith if I wanted to, but they would have to be juniors, seniors, thirds, fourths, something to distinguish them from one to the other. And you have to do the same thing with your method. So you have to have some type of distinction, and it is usually either in the number of arguments that you're going to present or in the data types of those arguments. So the very first thing we need to do here is to go in and create a method, or excuse me, a class. And this class is going to be named Demo Overload. Okay. We also need to create a main method. Alright, now inside of that main method we are going to create just a couple of variables. We've got three different integers, month, day, and year. And when we create month, day, and year, we're going to go ahead and assign a value to those. If you recall, anytime you've got variables of like data type, you can create and declare them, assign them all on one line, and that's what we're doing here as long as we separate them by the use of commas. Okay. The very next thing that we need to do is to go ahead and create three call statements to three separate methods. You will notice that we are creating an overload because we are going to have overload date is going to appear in our code 3 times. And each time that we use overload date, we are going to have a different assignment of arguments in that call statement. The first one is going to have overload date with one argument, which is month. The second one is going to have month and day. So again, we've got multiple arguments there. And then our third and last one is going to have, oops, misspelled that one. Let me put my O in there. Is going to have three different arguments, month, day, and year. So there is some differences between those various calls. Now once we go in and start creating the various methods, we do have to have a method called overload date that accepts one argument, a method that has overload date as the name with 2 arguments, and then another one with overload date with 3 arguments. So let's create those. And they're going to all be voids because we are not going to return anything. And inside of each one of these, we're just basically going to print out the information we're dealing with there. Okay, so we've got the event date, doing a concatenation with the month. And the month is what we're bringing, the MM. And we're going to add it to just the basic date layout here of basically it's going to read 6/1/2020. 2011. Okay. That's all we're going to do in that method. Let's create another method. And to make things easy, I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste that method. Do a little bit of changing to it, where I'm selecting or accepting one argument. I need to increase it to accept two. And I am going to change my output so that it will read event date of the month, which is 6, a slash 24, a slash 2011. And then I'm going to create another method whose name is still overload, but this time we're going to take 3 separate arguments, and we're going to change our output a little bit here so that we do have the event date is going to be the month plus a slash plus date plus a slash plus the year. Okay. Let's go in and do a compile. It's not liking my main method. Let's see. Which usually means I've got an opening and a closing bracket somewhere. There we go. And we're just going to run it. And then you'll see down here at the output, we do have all 3 forms of our output. We have got, again, just the declaration of our variables, a call statement. Now, how do I know which overload I'm going to? Because I've got overload date 3 different times. It's all going to be dependent on the arguments that I'm passing to it, because you'll notice that one overload date has 1 argument, the next one has 2 arguments, the next overload date has 3 arguments. So according to the call statement, it knows exactly where it belongs, because the overload date with 1 argument has to go to the overload date method that accepts 1 argument. And the same thing for 2 as well as 3. That concludes part 2.